Imagine a world where every time you send your child to school, they're preparing for war. Parents sobbing on the news channels, students choosing to speak in front of millions about their best friend who was shot in the middle of gym class, and siblings wondering why their brother died on a Thursday afternoon at that very school they will soon be attending. It shouldn't be hard for you to imagine this, because school shootings are happening and have been happening for over 3 centuries. Through inaction, American citizens and politicians are choosing to ignore this controversial issue. And sadly, children will die as a consequence. One approach to decrease school shootings is to harden schools and their surroundings. Essentially, add metal detectors, arm security guards, provide teachers with their own guns. Keeping this in mind, I'm sure we all remember the teacher that accidentally fired his gun into a classroom ceiling during a gun safety lesson. A student was harmed from the falling debris, proving a very important point. If the goal is to decrease gun activity in schools, the answer should not be to add more guns. A student can still die from a bullet, whether it was shot from a gun of a mass murderer or a teacher with good intentions. So then, what is the correct solution? I think America already has the answer to this, and it's not throwing more guns at the problem in hopes that it'll go away. A plan titled Call for Action to Prevent Gun Violence in the United States of America has already been drafted, with 200 university signatures and over 2,300 individual expert signatures signed on in support of this document as of this year. This plan of action details the exact way to stop school shootings, ways that won't raise the death count and will remain effective. 1, gun regulation needs to become stricter, which is not the same thing as eliminating the rights for the American people to bear arms. If you want to have 24/7 access to a handgun, you get yourself a handgun, but do so through the legal means, without the loopholes. This means abiding and supporting several different gun control laws, such as banning all weapons of war, keeping guns out of the reach of children, limiting the amount of guns a person can buy at once, holding gun dealers accountable, and strengthening all background checks. These policies shouldn't bother you if you're not a mass murderer intent on killing hundreds of people. As for the second step, a top priority needs to be making our school and their environment a place where no child will want or need to bring their gun to school. Instead of spending millions to ensure that every teacher has a gun, which could in fact raise the death count, let's use that money to ensure that every school in the US has at least one guidance counselor for 200 kids. As proven by the American Academy of Pediatrics, kids are twice as likely to bring guns to school with the intention of harming peers or staff if they have suffered physical or mental abuse themselves. Whether this abuse comes from home or from that very school they are now targeting, adding trained professionals whose job it is to identify kids exhibiting these behaviors is key to preventing the next school shooting. That money could also be used to decrease bullying and gang violence in our schools, as kids that feel threatened are more likely to bring guns to school in order to defend themselves. Instead of worrying about how they'll get home safely, they can focus on obtaining good grades. And by taking those steps now, the same student can focus on acing their SAT in 2 years, not stressing about their little sister, and if she's coming home alive or in a body bag. This leads to the third and final step. The only way to ensure that mass school shootings will come to an eventual end is to never be quiet about them and the horrors they bring. It's easy to forget about this pandemic issue when the news stops telling the stories or when people get bored because another tragedy makes the headline. We tend to sympathize with the victims, but deny how it's directly linked to our children in schools until they are the ones getting affected. As Alfonso Calderon, a student who experienced the horrors of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting said, "I am here to call for a change in our country. Change will come. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then after that. If I have to drop everything in my life just to make it happen." If we the people don't fight for this issue, it has already been proven that it won't get fixed. For students in my generation, The idea that our school might be the location of another gruesome shooting is as present in our minds as the possibility of a fire or earthquake. And it's now the new norm to prepare for all three. Let's stop preparing our children for war when we send them to school and put school shootings where they actually belong, as devastating events that people are only aware of from reading their history books.